Mr. Sunshine is a 2018 K-drama written by Kim Eun-suk, a screenwriter renowned for other notable hits such as Descendants of the Sun, Goblin, and The Glory. Unlike her typical romantic comedies or political melodramas, it is a historical fiction, set in the socially unstable era before Japan's occupation of Korea in the 1900s. It follows various characters as they navigate a rapidly changing world where Korea's independence is being lost to other powers, and emphasizes their interactions with the Righteous Army, a militia group credited with brave acts towards freeing Korea from foreign influence. Being one of the highest rated series in Korean television history, and considered unrivaled as the best K-drama of 2018, it had a significant cultural impact during its run. But on top of having a cast of veteran actors, beautiful cinematography, and nuanced writing, one factor that especially defines this masterful storytelling is that it continues the literary tradition of a tragedy, but one with a modern twist and setting. Hi, I'm Sua, and welcome to the 4th episode of Feels Like Literature, where I review and analyze stories across media to find what makes it classic. And a quick disclaimer before we move on. Upon release, there were a few controversies surrounding this K-drama due to historical inaccuracies. The historical elements mentioned in this episode are based on the on-screen depiction and are not based on external research. I will put a link down in the description box if anyone wants to know more. In literature, tragedies are stories where protagonists suffer or meet an unhappy ending due to a personal or societal flaw. Using this element through Mr. Sunshine's complex characters, Kim Eun-suk emotionally connects with the audience and criticizes what led to the decline of the Joseon dynasty. Each protagonist represents a societal wrongdoing in the time period, and their downfalls coincide with the fall of Joseon, which symbolizes how ignored vices decay and destroy a nation. In the case of Eugene Choi, the main protagonist, he was a slave born in Joseon, who ran away after his parents were brutally killed by his masters. After encountering an American missionary, he became a U.S. Marine captain as an adult, then was later sent back to Joseon on behalf of America. However, as a Korean-born American, his return is but a double-edged sword. Best put by Hinakudo, another main character, Eugene is a lonely foreigner, who would find himself unaccepted wherever he goes. Solely chosen for his Korean identity by US officials, and asked for help by the Righteous Army for his American ties, others are quick to take advantage of him for their own gain. As a result, he is consistently burdened with a difficult choice that involves his two worlds: to either help a country that gave him a position of power by colonizing his motherland, which took away his loved ones, or to save it when it was clearly doomed from the start. No longer a slave and now a Marine captain, he has the ability to take revenge on the slave masters who killed his parents, but more than that, he can see Joseon be destroyed himself. Yet, he does not. He says to another character, who was successful in carrying out his own vengeance, that he had a choice, unlike his parents. And this is repeated in his interactions with others throughout the story. Eugene being aware of how his actions could drastically affect those around him or hinder them, choosing to step back for others to move forward and go down a separate, more impactful road. He is self-sacrificial in the sense of his decisions and purpose. Although this is a major character trait, it also leads to his downfall. He sees no reason to live but goes on to save the people he loves, even if it means losing everything he has. On the Joseon side, we meet a noblewoman of high status named Go Ae-shin. Like Eugene, she's an orphan, yet both her parents were murdered for being a part of the Righteous Army. Determined to follow in their footsteps, she trained with a gun to become a sniper and went on covert missions despite her social standing. On the other hand, she is met with greater societal expectations, as she cannot freely pursue knowledge or even her own romance. She is aware of her lack of freedom though, and often rebels against it, yet remains ignorant of the deep cracks within her society. At one point, she is asked by Eugene, "This country you're trying to protect, who is it for?" Is there life for butchers? Is there life for slaves? This leads her to question whether she had been following the right path. The Chosun that she had known and been fighting for was completely different from the one many others understood to have abandoned them. This situation reveals how, regardless of her firm determination and relentless perseverance, her actions towards Chosun independence would be in vain if socially nothing changes after. Due to her kindness and cluelessness, she had been treating others with generosity regardless of their social classes. Yet, it is clear that if nobles like her remain separated from the rest of Chosun society, which is vastly made of those living in poverty, then the nation would perpetuate a cycle of oppression that continually divides the people. The greatest element of tragedy in this K-drama is perhaps the futility of each character's actions and the inevitability of Chosun's fall. For centuries, tragedies have been fiddling with the question of whether fate is changeable. One classic example is Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, in which a demon king finds himself a victim of fate upon discovering he had unknowingly fulfilled a prophecy from his birth, which stated he would murder his father and marry his mother. His parents' attempts to prevent the prophecy from coming true is what paved the road towards the disaster's end, proving that attempting to alter a determined future only causes it to happen. As hinted at in Mr. Sunshine, Chosun's fate had been sealed from the beginning, but not because those who saw its imminent fall attempted to prevent it and set off a chain of events that cost its independence. Rather, it is because it lost in a tug-of-war between more powerful countries. The people of Chosun had already long given up hope of fighting for their country, and the ones who saw the fractures within it chose to ignore it or use it for themselves. In Kim In-suk's story, there is a more complex answer, where fate is only one factor among many institutional problems that had already set off the path to destruction long before others began to notice. Inevitability in this K-drama is the fact that as long as society and institutions themselves are no longer united for the country, Chosun would always be given away to foreign powers. In addition to the storytelling, Mr. Sunshine's instrumental music and soundtrack add to the tragedy motif. At the beginning of each episode, the opening credits play out in the form of a classical music style concerto, played by violist Richard Yongjae O'Neill. Not only does it represent the historical era of this drama, but it also sets up the overall tone of the story. The key is in D minor, and the melody is reminiscent of Mozart's Requiem, hinting that whatever awaits the characters will not lead them to a happy ending. But in addition to the opening music, the soundtrack adds more character depth through thoughtful lyrics. The first instance of this is Drew's novel use of both English and Korean languages. While using the two languages alone is not a new concept within K-dramas, with most popular ones having English words and phrases in their songs, Mr. Sunshine is unique for having the majority of his songs either completely in English or Korean. The clear separation of the languages mostly happens at the beginning of the soundtrack, matching how Eugene struggles between his Korean and American identities at the start of the show. Moreover, somber ballads with lyrics of longing, pain, and hardship fill up most of this period, representing more of his journey. In Elaine's Sad March, the opening lines are, "Dawn after darkness, sun has pushed the stars. All sadness gone hollow, empty home." The words present an imagery of bleak loneliness, and the later verses follow one finding love and beauty within the moonlight, yet parting with the person who gave them comfort when the sun rises. Meanwhile, in Becoming the Wind by Hayeon-sang, the singer's desire to remain close to her lover, even in a visible manner, is very similar to Eugene and Eugene relationship dynamic. A part of the chorus states, "I'll become the wind and stay by your side," which speaks to how no matter the differences in their worlds, the two's desire to be together is always there and tangible, just like the wind. But like how the wind does not linger at one place for long, the fact that they cannot stay at each other's side is yet another part of the tragedy. Mr. Sunshine tells the story of people with tragic pasts, a ruined nation caught between powerful countries, and a band of bold people fighting to save their dying homeland. By utilizing the element of tragedy, the drama teaches the audience that Joseon not only fell from colonization, but because it made enemies of its own people. Corruption and disloyalty inevitably followed, along with the loss of its independence. Through its depiction of each character's struggles and sacrifices, it also shows us how we should honor them, by remembering to learn from the mistakes of the past, by not taking the righteous army's sacrifices in vain, and by helping to create a better Choson. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment down below or contact me through feelslikeliterature@gmail.com. Next up, we will be resuming our focus on webtoons by discussing one that, like True Beauty, focuses on beauty standards. But instead of being about lookism, it is a story of women like Ae-shin who strive to live as more than just flowers. I hope you look forward to the next episode, and I will see you next time.